He was the man behind the music. For more than 6 decades, Clive J. Davis sat at the center of American popular culture, not as a performer, not as a songwriter, but as the quiet force who decided which voices the world would hear. From Janis Joplin to Whitney Houston, from Bruce Springsteen to Alicia Keys, Davis didn't just sign artists. He built them. He shaped them. He turned raw talent into global phenomena and, in doing so, accumulated one of the most remarkable fortunes in entertainment history. But on June 22, 2026, Davis died at his Manhattan home at the age of 94, surrounded by family, after being hospitalized with respiratory problems. And when the world began to look more closely at what he left behind, the properties, the financial records, the long paper trail of a career that stretched back to the Eisenhower era, some of what emerged was extraordinary. Some of it was troubling, and some of it has reignited questions that the music industry has never fully answered. So what exactly was found in Clive Davis's estate? Why are people talking? And what does all of this mean for the legacy of the man once described by the New York Times as the hit-making titan of the music industry? Let's get into it. To understand what was found in Clive Davis's estate, you first need to understand the scale of what he built. Davis was not born into money. He was raised in Crown Heights, Brooklyn, the son of Herman Davis, an electrician and traveling tie salesman. Both of his parents died within 11 months of each other while Davis was still a teenager at New York University, forcing him to move in with his married sister in Bayside, Queens. That kind of early loss has a way of either breaking a person or hardening them. In Davis's case, it appeared to do the latter. He graduated from NYU magna cum laude, earned a full scholarship to Harvard Law School, and entered the music business not through passion, but through practicality, as an in-house lawyer for Columbia Records, a CBS subsidiary. By 1967, at just 35 years old, he was named president of Columbia Records. And what he did next changed everything. Davis attended the Monterey International Pop Festival that same year and saw the future. He immediately recognized the commercial power of rock and roll at a time when Columbia was still a label known for classical recordings and Broadway cast albums. He signed Santana. He signed Janis Joplin's band Big Brother and the Holding Company. He signed Bruce Springsteen. He brought in Chicago, Aerosmith, Earth, Wind and Fire, and Billy Joel. Columbia's profits soared. His reputation for having what insiders called golden ears, an almost supernatural ability to hear a hit before it existed, became legend. When Davis died in June 2026, multiple outlets confirmed his net worth was estimated between $600 million and $850 million. The wide range tells its own story about how much remained unaccounted for or still tied up in assets. Those assets were significant. According to real estate records and reporting by Celebrity Net Worth, Davis owned at least 5 units in a single Manhattan building at 465 Park Avenue, including a duplex he purchased in 2015 for $3.4 million and renovated for a family member. He also owned a 6-bedroom, 4,400 square foot apartment at 80 Riverside Boulevard on the Upper West Side, listed at $6.3 million in 2023. And then there was the crown jewel, a sprawling 17-acre compound in northern Westchester County featuring an 8,000 square foot main house, a 6,000 square foot guest house, 2 swimming pools, a tennis court, and a custom home theater capable of hosting 80 guests. Davis once told an interviewer, "I use it every weekend. On nights when I have a big party, people crowd in." That Westchester compound was also where Davis hosted his famed annual Memorial Day weekend gatherings, parties that functioned, in many ways, as unofficial industry summits where deals were discussed, careers were shaped, and the inner machinery of the music world quietly turned. But the real discovery, the one that has drawn the most attention since his death, is what the estate's inventory revealed about his art collection. Clive Davis was not just a music executive. He was a serious art collector. According to multiple estate and wealth analyses published following his death, Davis assembled a personal art collection worth an estimated $100 million to $200 million, depending on current market appraisals. The collection included works by Pablo Picasso, Andy Warhol, Damien Hirst, Dale Chihuly, Alex Katz, Fernando Botero, and Adolf Gottlieb, names that represent some of the most valuable artistic output of the 20th century. Some of the collection was publicly displayed. Davis donated portions of it to New York University, where he endowed the Clive Davis Department of Recorded Music at the Tisch School of the Arts, a $5 million gift in 2002. Pieces on display there were visible to students and visitors for years. But a significant portion of the collection remained at his Westchester estate, largely out of public view. Now, with Davis gone, that collection must be appraised, catalogued, and eventually divided or disposed of according to his estate plans. His 4 children, Fred, Lauren, Mitchell, and Doug Davis, are widely expected to be the primary beneficiaries, along with his surviving partner. But art of this scale and variety doesn't just get divided up. It enters a complex legal and financial process that can take years and often surfaces details the public never anticipated. What makes the art collection particularly interesting in the current moment is not just its value, it is what it represents about how Davis chose to hold and store wealth. Unlike cash or conventional investments, fine art is notoriously difficult to value in real time, can shift dramatically in worth between auctions, and is often used in estate planning to reduce taxable assets. Financial analysts who study high net worth estates have long noted that art collections of this type frequently reveal more about a person's financial strategy than any balance sheet. In Davis's case, a collection that reportedly grew to extraordinary value over decades of careful acquisition raises obvious questions about how and why that wealth was structured as it was. There is nothing necessarily improper about holding wealth in art. Many billionaires do it. But in the context of Clive Davis, a man whose entire career was defined by controversy, comeback, and the careful management of public perception, the discovery of the full scope of that collection has given observers something to talk about. To understand the renewed scrutiny around Davis's estate, you have to go back to 1973. That year, Davis was arguably the most powerful recording executive in the United States. Columbia Records under his leadership had become the dominant label in rock music, generating hundreds of millions in revenue. And then, without warning, it all collapsed. On May 29, 1973, CBS fired Clive Davis and filed a lawsuit accusing him of misusing approximately $94,000 in company funds, roughly $700,000 in today's money, for personal expenses. According to Newsweek's reporting at the time, the alleged expenses included renovations to his New York apartment, a lavish bar mitzvah celebration for one of his sons, and a rented Beverly Hills summer home. The firing alone would have been career-ending for most people. But it was what followed that made the story genuinely shocking. Simultaneously, federal investigators began exploring a broader web of alleged payola, the practice of paying radio stations, disc jockeys, and music directors in exchange for airplay. A Rolling Stone report dated July 5, 1973 stated directly that CBS had fired Davis amid allegations of misuse of funds and providing drugs to artists and disc jockeys. According to reporting by Time magazine from that period, federal agents were probing an elaborate scheme involving fictitious companies, phony invoices, and alleged drug-related payola stretching across the record industry. Davis was never charged with payola. He denied knowing he had misused funds. In 1975, the matter was resolved when he pleaded guilty to a single, reduced count of failing to pay taxes on $8,800 in vacation expenses, paying a $10,000 fine. By most standards of federal prosecution, that outcome was remarkably light for someone who had been publicly accused of being the central figure in one of the music industry's most explosive scandals. Davis himself maintained throughout his life that he had been made a scapegoat, that CBS used him to protect the company from a broader investigation. Whether or not that is true, the speed with which he rebounded is notable. Just 1 year after being escorted out of Columbia Records by guards, stripped, as he later described it, from the company's very history, he was back. By 1974, he had been installed at Bell Records, which he rebranded as Arista Records. Within a decade, he had rebuilt his reputation entirely. The pattern that emerged in 1973, serious allegations, significant scrutiny, minimal legal consequences, and a remarkably swift return to power, is one that critics and observers have pointed to repeatedly in the years since. In the early 1990s, after Sean "Diddy" Combs left Uptown Records, Clive Davis made a decision that even people close to him described as surprising. He provided Combs with approximately $15 million to help start Bad Boy Records. This was not a casual investment. Adjusted for inflation, that sum is worth close to $40 million today. And Combs, at the time, had never run a record label, had not produced a string of major hits as a solo artist, and had a well-documented reputation for being difficult to work with. He had also been publicly associated with a tragic incident. In December 1991, a charity basketball event he promoted at City College of New York descended into a deadly stampede when the venue became dangerously overcrowded. 9 people died. Numerous others were injured. Combs eventually reached civil settlements with victims' families, but faced no criminal charges. 2 years after that disaster, Davis handed him one of the largest investments in hip-hop history. The result was, by any commercial measure, an enormous success. Bad Boy Records became home to the notorious B.I.G., Craig Mack, Faith Evans, Maze, and 112. The label transformed mainstream music. Davis later acknowledged, somewhat candidly in his memoir, that he never quite understood rap music, which makes the scale of the investment all the more striking. What was Davis seeing? What did he know? Was it simply, as he claimed, an instinct that hip-hop was about to become a global force? Or was there something else, some arrangement, some understanding, some calculation that went beyond standard industry logic, that made the decision make sense in ways that were never fully disclosed? These are the questions that have lingered for 30 years. They have resurfaced with renewed intensity since Diddy's arrest on federal charges in September 2024. As of the time of Davis's death in June 2026, Diddy remained in custody at MDC Brooklyn, where he had been held since his arrest. He was sentenced to 50 months in federal prison, with the earliest possible release date in late 2028. Federal prosecutors were still actively investigating the full scope of his conduct, and reports circulated, without official confirmation, that Combs had expressed interest in providing testimony. If Combs were to testify in any future proceeding, the scope of what he might be able to speak to, about the music industry in the 1990s, about the people around him, about the business arrangements that shaped one of the most commercially successful eras in hip-hop history, is significant. Davis's death does not close those questions. In some respects, it opens them further, because the estate records, financial disclosures, and legal proceedings that follow a person's death sometimes surface what a living subject could keep quiet. It is essential to be clear about what remains unverified. In recent years, a number of public figures, including radio personality Larry Gators and imprisoned Death Row Records founder Suge Knight, have made sweeping claims about Clive Davis's alleged role in shaping the music industry in ways that went beyond business. Gators claimed, without documentary evidence, that a secret meeting occurred at Davis's Beverly Hills mansion in 1995 involving rappers, government agents, and representatives of private prison companies. Knight, serving a 28-year sentence for voluntary manslaughter, has claimed that recordings exist implicating powerful industry figures in serious misconduct, and has named Davis among those he alleges knew about exploitative practices and did nothing to stop them. Davis's representatives consistently and emphatically denied all such claims. They described the allegations as false, unsubstantiated, and in Knight's case, as motivated by personal bitterness rather than fact. Those denials should be taken seriously. Knight is a convicted felon with documented personal grievances against multiple figures in the music industry. Gators' 1995 meeting claim has never been corroborated by documentary evidence, witness testimony, or law enforcement action. No federal charges were ever filed against Clive Davis in connection with any such allegations. No civil lawsuit successfully established the claims. What is true is this: Clive Davis had a complicated relationship with power, money, and accountability throughout his career. He was fired from one of the most prestigious jobs in music following credible allegations of financial misconduct. He bounced back faster than nearly anyone in his industry. He made financial investments